The weather's closing in on us here. It's been snowing a little bit. It's been cold. You know, it's that end of season push. And everybody's doing a really good job.
The old-timers said it couldn't be done. The Widow's Cut was a frozen tomb, impossible to mine. But Parker Schnabel had a secret weapon they never dreamed of: lasers. Using advanced drones and LiDAR mapping, his team peered through the earth, found a hidden path, and unlocked a treasure that had been lost for decades. But just as the gold started flowing, the ground beneath them began to shake, revealing something buried even deeper. The Death Trap with a Golden Secret. In the insane world of Klondike gold mining, there are places that even the toughest crews won't touch. They have names that get whispered around campfires, attached to stories of broken equipment, financial ruin, and terrible accidents.
It went on being fairly prosperous. Gold continued to be found.
The Widow's Cut was one of those places. It was a collapsed mine shaft so dangerous, so famously unforgiving, that trying to mine it was seen as an impossible mission. It wasn't just superstition either. The place was a geological nightmare. First off, the entire area was buried under deep permafrost. Now, this isn't just frozen dirt we're talking about. This is ground that has been frozen solid, as hard as concrete, for thousands of years.
Thank you for getting this done. Really means a lot. Like, it's a huge amount of ground, a huge amount of logistics that we're not used to dealing with, that you guys fought through.
Any attempt to dig into it carried the constant, terrifying threat of multi-ton chunks of frozen earth and rock suddenly breaking loose and crushing anything or anyone below. If that wasn't scary enough, there was the constant risk of a catastrophic flood. Just a little bit of meltwater or a hidden underground spring could turn the shaft into a watery grave in seconds, wiping out millions of dollars of heavy machinery. It was a place where one wrong move could end your season or your life. But Parker Schnabel saw something nobody else did. Most miners looked at the Widow's Cut and saw a guaranteed failure. Parker Schnabel looked at it and saw the biggest opportunity of his life. That's just how he's built. Ever since he was a kid learning at the feet of his legendary grandpa, John Schnabel, Parker has been a gambler. He's always pushed for bigger goals, more land, and more gold than anyone thought possible.
I expect a bit of calibration problems on this ground of like our process and figuring out the most efficient way of doing things, right? Like, I expect those problems.
While his rivals like Tony Beets might rely on decades of old school experience, Parker combines that grit with a relentless, youthful ambition. He wasn't just trying to have a good season, he was trying to hit a 7,000-ounce goal, a number that would cement his status as the undisputed king of the Klondike. Seeing the Widow's Cut, a place feared by all, wasn't a warning sign to him. Truth be told, it was an invitation. He figured that if nobody else had the guts to tackle it, then whatever gold was down there was his for the taking. It was a massive risk, betting his entire operation on a geological death trap. But Parker was about to prove that the biggest risks come with the biggest rewards, and he had a secret weapon the old-timers could never have dreamed of. Faced with an impossible challenge, Parker decided to fight smart, not just hard. Instead of waging a brute force war against the permafrost with dozers and excavators, he brought in the big guns, high-tech eyes in the sky. Parker and his crew unleashed a state-of-the-art LiDAR system, a piece of technology that is revolutionizing the mining game. You see, LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging, and what it does is almost like magic. It shoots millions of laser pulses down at the ground, creating an incredibly precise three-dimensional map of the terrain. They paired this laser technology with advanced drone mapping, flying over every inch of the forbidding landscape. This combination gave them a superpower. They could see through the thick trees and overgrowth, mapping out the contours of the earth in a way that was previously impossible. It was a massive advantage. While other crews were guessing and drilling blindly, Parker's team was building a perfect digital model of the Widow's Cut.
But right now, it's an added cost. And, you know, it's not ready to be sleuthed, but we can make it ready with a bit of ripping.
They were looking for a weakness, a hidden path, a secret way into the treasure chest. And then, as the data poured in, they found something that had been lost for decades. The breakthrough that the lasers provided was stunning. Hidden under a century of tangled wilderness and debris, the LiDAR map revealed a perfectly straight man-made anomaly, a collapsed vertical shaft. It was a forgotten relic from the original mining operation, completely invisible to the naked eye. Their precise measurements showed it was over 40 meters deep. That's more than 130 feet straight down into the darkness. This was it. This was their secret entrance. Instead of trying to dig a whole new ramp, which would have been a costly and dangerous battle against the permafrost, they could use this existing shaft. The plan was terrifying but brilliant. The crew got to work hauling in massive reinforced steel beams to stabilize the crumbling walls of the old shaft. It was slow, nerve-wracking work, with every scrape of the excavator echoing in the dangerous silence. But with Parker's expert crew leading the charge, they managed to build a safe enough pathway down into the heart of the mine. After weeks of frustration, they finally had a direct line to the prize. But no one, not even Parker, was prepared for what was waiting for them at the bottom. The moment the crew reached the bottom of that stabilized shaft, they knew they had hit the mother lode. What they found was breathtaking. An untouched, quartz-rich gold vein glittering in the beams of their lights. It was so pure, so pristine, that Parker's on-site geologist said it was the cleanest and richest natural deposit he had ever seen in his entire career.
I think you'd have a hard time, it'd be a full-time job for somebody.
There was no time to waste. The team knew that whispers of their discovery could attract claim jumpers, so they got to work with a frantic, desperate energy. They worked around the clock, fueled by adrenaline and the sight of all that gold. And here's where it gets absolutely wild. In just 72 hours, 3 days of non-stop grueling labor, they managed to extract more than 4,000 ounces of gold. When they did the math, that single cleanup was worth over $10 million. It was a season-saving haul that covered their fuel, wages, and operating costs in one incredible weekend. The gamble had paid off big time, but this incredible score was just a tiny taste of the true treasure lurking deeper in the earth. The $75 million jackpot. That $10 million haul was a game changer, but the team's geologist had even more shocking news. After examining the geology of the massive quartz vein, he realized it was far larger than anyone had imagined. It didn't just stop at their little chamber, it extended further underground. A lot further. After some quick calculations based on the vein's thickness and projected length, the team figured out that it stretched for another 2 kilometers. That's about 1.25 miles. This is where the numbers get truly insane. Taking into account the incredible richness of the gold they had already pulled out.
I think this run was mostly ditches, wasn't it?
Yeah. Ditch and gravel.
If that's a sign of what's to come, then we're in the right spot.
They ran the numbers on the full 2-kilometer vein. The potential value was staggering, another $75 million. If they could pull it off, this wouldn't just be a successful season, it would be the single most successful season in the history of Gold Rush. It was the kind of find miners spend their whole lives dreaming about. But with a discovery this big, Parker knew that his biggest fight was just beginning. You can't keep a $75 million secret in the Klondike. Word of Parker's strike at the Widow's Cut got out fast, spreading through the gold fields like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone was talking. Rival miners, curious locals, and even government inspectors were buzzing about what Parker had found. The pressure was on, but Parker was one step ahead. He had already made sure the claim was legally his, locked down tight. No one was getting a piece of this score. For Parker, this was more than just a lucky strike. This was validation for all the years of hard work, risk, and sacrifice. The whispers started flying all over the Yukon. Had Parker Schnabel really just pulled off the biggest gold strike of the 21st century? Had he rewritten the rules of the game? This wasn't just about gold anymore. It was about power. Parker had just become the most important man in the Yukon, and with that title came a whole new set of dangers. He had found the treasure, but now he had to protect his kingdom. Suddenly, the weight on Parker's shoulders became immense. With a $75 million prize sitting under his feet, everyone was watching his every move. The discovery sent ripples across the entire Klondike. Land prices could skyrocket. New miners might flood the area hoping to get lucky themselves. The pressure on Parker's young crew was enormous. Could they handle a massive multi-year operation under this kind of spotlight? Or would the fame, greed, and sky-high expectations cause things to fall apart? This was the ultimate test. Parker had proven he could find gold. He had fought through brutal winters, equipment breakdowns, and frozen ground. But this was different. This was a chance to build a true legacy, to become a legend like his grandfather before him. Some will say he got lucky, and others will say it was his unmatched instinct. Whatever the reason, Parker Schnabel just turned a death trap into a king's ransom. The story isn't over, but one thing is certain. The king of the Klondike just showed the world what a real jackpot looks like. The ink on the assay reports had barely dried when the scandals began. It started as whispers in the saloons of Dawson City, then escalated to viral posts on social media. The most outrageous claim that Parker had been sentenced to life in prison for environmental crimes spread like a contagion. It was a baseless lie, of course, a piece of digital fiction likely cooked up by a rival with too much time on their hands. But in the hyper-competitive world of gold mining, a lie can do more damage than a broken-down dozer. The rumor forced Parker to spend precious time and money on lawyers and public relations, a new kind of warfare for which he was ill-prepared. The attacks became more sophisticated. A shell corporation with ties to a shadowy international consortium filed a lawsuit challenging the legality of his claim on the widow's cut. They produced a series of forged, century-old documents that seemed to give them a legitimate claim to the land. Parker, who had always settled disputes with a handshake or a shouting match, now found himself entangled in a web of legal maneuvering that threatened to bleed him dry before he could extract another ounce of gold.
That's wild. There's a start. We're on the board, Mitch.
Well, that's an awesome pan.
His rivals, smelling blood in the water, began to circle. Tony Beets, in particular, seemed to relish Parker's predicament, offering condescending advice in public while quietly fanning the flames of the legal battle behind the scenes. The pressure was starting to crush everyone on Parker Schnabel's crew. At the beginning of the mining season, things had been smooth. Everyone worked hard, joked around, and believed in the dream. But now, everything had changed. The easy friendships were gone, replaced by frustration, suspicion, and quiet resentment. What should have been a season of celebration had turned into a boiling pot ready to explode. Parker and his team had pulled out $10 million worth of gold from the widow's cut. It was one of the biggest hauls they had ever seen. People expected smiles, champagne, and cheers, but instead they got arguments. Fights broke out over who deserved the biggest bonus. Some workers demanded shorter hours or safer conditions. Others were scared that the mine could collapse again without warning. The stress was turning good workers into ticking time bombs. Outside the mine, things weren't much better. A few crew members, not used to having so much money and fame, started partying hard in town. Their wild behavior, drinking, crashing fancy cars, and fighting in bars quickly made headlines. Reporters started circling like vultures.
Congratulations. This is to those that help you get started, those that help you along the way, but aren't here to share. Let's pour that one out.
Parker had worked his whole life to be taken seriously, and now he was watching his crew turn into tabloid gossip. He had always been a leader who stayed close to the action. He ran the machines, hauled dirt, and encouraged his team with grit and confidence. But now he was spending more time putting out fires than mining gold. His once loyal crew was slowly turning into a group of angry individuals, each one focused on their own paycheck and fame. But the biggest danger wasn't out in the mine or in the press. It was growing inside Parker's own mind. After months of pressure, legal threats from landowners, and rumors of lawsuits, he started to doubt himself. Every decision felt risky. Every comment from his team sounded like an insult. Every shadow looked like a trap. The more he tried to hold it all together, the more it felt like things were falling apart. The gold from the widow's cut had made Parker a legend. People were calling him a genius, a modern-day prospector who struck it rich with nothing but guts and lasers. But Parker wasn't celebrating. He felt like a king under attack, trying to defend his castle from all sides. The dream that had once excited him now felt like a prison. And deep down, Parker knew one terrifying truth: finding the treasure was the easy part. Will Parker survive the pressure or lose it all? Let us know in the comments, like and subscribe to see how this ends.